Welcome to this TV Tacoma Forum for Port of Tacoma Position 2. I'm Noel Higgins of the League of Women Voters, Tacoma Pierce County, and I will be moderating. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization whose mission for the past 101 years has been to empower informed and active participation of citizens in government. Candidate forums are one of the many ways we do this. Anyone age 16 or older can be a member of the League of Women Voters. For more information on our membership, go to our website at www.tacomapiercelwv.org. The candidates with us today in ballot order are Dick Marzano and Elizabeth Pugh. Jeanette Twitty is not present. Welcome, Dick and Elizabeth. Thank you for being here. You have agreed to our ground rules, which, among other things, say that you will not discuss each other in your answers. Will you please verbally agree to this important ground rule just right now?
Yes, most definitely.
I agree.
Thank you so much. Candidates will have 2 minutes for opening statements. And because there are just two of you here today, I'm going to opt for 2 minutes for each question. We'll see how that goes. And then you'll have 1 minute for closing statements. Our timekeeper is Terry Baker. She will signal you when you have, Terry, since we're doing the 2 minutes, why don't you signal at 1 minute, if you would, and then 15 seconds and when it's time to stop. At the final signal, the candidate may finish a short sentence. In ballot order, Dick Marzano will give the first opening statement, followed by Elizabeth Pugh. Dick, your opening statement, please.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having this. My name is Dick Marzano. A little history about myself. I was born and raised here in Tacoma, grew up on K Street, which is now Martin Luther King Way. I just retired from the ILW Longshoremen Union, where I served for 6 years as president. I have served on the United Way Board, St. Leo's Hospitality Kitchen, the Foss Waterway Development Board, the Freight Mobility of a Strategic Investment Board is a statewide board appointed by both Governor Locke and Governor Gregoire, past president of the Washington Public Ports Association, and I was co-chair of the 167 completion, something that was critically needed. I am currently president of the Tacoma Port Commission. I first ran for the Port Commission because I believed they weren't doing enough to create family wage jobs. Since that time, I've learned that there's a lot more to it. I think it's family wage jobs, cleaning up our environment, and transportation infrastructure are three critical elements that are needed as we grow. Just recently, it was told that this community in Pierce County grew by 10% over the last year. We're going to continue growing. And with that comes responsibilities, making sure that people have jobs to go to, can live and work and play in a safe environment, and has the transportation infrastructure so they're not stuck in traffic like they are. I'm proud of the fact that the Port of Tacoma has worked with the Port of Seattle and the Fraser Port of Canada in the Northwest Ports Clean Air Strategy, helping to eliminate emissions from ocean-going vessels. Our Clean Truck Program, a program where we scrapped over 400 trucks, making sure that the trucks entering our international terminals are cleaner. Habitat restoration is critically important. We've done over 200 acres. A couple examples are Gogol Heidi and the Place of Circling Waters. We spent over $200 million in remediation of properties that we inherited. And one of the things that I've advocated for and will continue to advocate for is the fact that we're going to leave this a lot better than how we inherited. Going to work every day like I did on the waterfront, it was understandable to see the emissions and things that happened.
Thank you, Dick. So, we're a bit over time, but we'll have some good questions coming up that you can respond to. I forgot I was muted. I was trying to speak to you. Okay, now, Elizabeth, you're muted. You're going to do a better job than I did in unmuting. Please give us your opening statement. Thank you, Dick.
Thank you. Again, my name is Elizabeth Pugh, obviously candidate for Port of Tacoma Commissioner Position 2, and I'm running to build a more equitable, sustainable, and collaborative port. A port that is responsive to the changing needs of all of Pierce County, from those of us who have spent a lifetime working in the port to those of us who rarely consider just how connected port activities are to our daily lives. One thing we all have in common, though, is a desire to be and to do good in the world. And for many of us, we find ways to be of service, to do our best work, and support our loved ones through our jobs. And if there's only one thing that people know about the port, it's that as the economic engine of Pierce County, the career opportunities that come through the port provide rewarding and meaningful work, good benefits, and living wages. I have spent my career with workers in the private sector and job seekers transitioning from the military right here in Pierce County. The people I talk to know what they want from their careers. The ability to pay for the necessities of food, shelter, clean water, of course. Their desire to learn new things, though, to live out a purpose and to create and to build a better future for their families is definitely part of it as well. I am running to ensure that these opportunities remain in the area, that jobs can develop and change to meet the demands of the future, and that these opportunities are open to all, even those not historically included in the industry. I am also running to ensure that we can make good on the promises of the 21st century, the promises I've been hearing about for as long as I can remember, of conscious stewardship of our planet's precious resources. The heat this past weekend, has been a striking example of how the time has long since come for us to act. We deserve that promised 21st century where we innovate, collaborate, and celebrate success in growing a modern economy rooted in equity, inclusion, and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Now it's time for the questions. And Elizabeth, you're going to go first for the question, and followed by Dick, of course. So we are going to try 2 minutes and see how this goes. So Elizabeth, the first question, what are your priorities for environmental restoration and cultural access to the tide flats?
Sure. So that's a great question, and very big, kind of two questions really in there, right? So in terms of environment, honestly, there's a lot of projects that are already happening throughout the port that I'd like to make sure we continue to maintain support for. As far as the development of the tide flats, I know there are areas that are underdeveloped that we could be looking at for additional economic manufacturing facilities. We could also be looking at how we want to extend all the beauty of what's been happening along the Foss Waterway and continue to make this an area for the whole community to enjoy. So this is something that I'm definitely still having a lot of conversations with community members about, because again, I want to make sure that what we're doing is coming from the whole of Pierce County, especially as we are seeing a lot of new people moving into the area. We know that these priorities may be changing, and I want to make sure that whatever we put in place is going to be working for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Dick, your response, please.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'm proud of the fact of what we've already started to accomplish with regards to cleaning up our environment. As I stated earlier in my opening statement, we inherited a lot of contamination, but we've spent over $200 million so far helping to remediate over 1,000 acres. We got a lot more work to do. There's still a lot of contamination that is down there, and we're working every day to make sure it's clean. The Northwest Ports Clean Air Strategy, something I mentioned, is something that we're going to be working on to help ensure that the emissions coming from ocean-going vessels and seaport-related activities are eliminated by 2050. Now, 2050 is just the ceiling. It's not the floor, and we're going to be working hard on that. We've eliminated over 400 trucks that enter our scrapped, dirty emission trucks that come into our international terminals. We're going to continue working on that every day, because it is critically that we do this. We just are now forming and going through our strategic plan And the two elements that came out from community responses are economic vitality and environmental stewardship. We take that to heart. We're going to continue working in that avenue. As our community grows, we're going to make sure that the jobs that we have on the waterfront are going to be sustainable and they're going to be clean. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Dick, you're going to answer this following question first. And the question is, if elected, not only will you be a port commissioner, you will be on the Northwest Seaport Alliance. What are your priorities for the Northwest Seaport Alliance?
Thank you. The Northwest Seaport Alliance was created back in 2015 for the ports of Seattle and Tacoma to work on marine cargo only. Seattle still has other elements. Tacoma still has our industrial properties and things of that nature. 80% of the business we do in the Port of Tacoma is marine related. So it is critically important that we work together as a gateway, a Puget Sound gateway, Seattle and Tacoma, competing with the ports of Prince Rupert up in Canada and all water routes along with the East Coast and the Panama Canal opening. So it is critical because 60% of our cargo doesn't stay here. They go east of the Mississippi. So the transportation infrastructure that we have to ensure that is sufficient can take care of those volumes. The Northwest Seaport Alliance, the success of the Northwest Seaport Alliance is directly related to how we do in the Port of Tacoma. And we're working in collaboration with the Port of Seattle and working with one voice to secure that type of cargo moving forward.
Elizabeth, your response to the question?
Thank you. Yes, undoubtedly, the Seaport Alliance was a very necessary step to take at the time that we got into that with the Port of Seattle. And I do think that we have seen a lot of success from that collaboration. Would like to continue that. As someone who has lived in this area my whole life, I know that it's been a really interesting process to watch just because a lot of times cities close together have that kind of sibling rivalry. And so it's been really great to be able to see both the ports in both areas work together. In addition to making sure that we can be competitive on a global scale as an alliance, I want to make sure, of course, that we're also getting a fair bargain for our part in it as the Pierce County Tacoma representation, and want to make sure that we're still having an active voice in identifying which of these projects or which of these companies we are having come into our local port. And I think the other thing that we can be doing in this is also sharing best practices and making sure that we're looking at ways that we can help develop the Port of Seattle in terms of us leading the ways on certain initiatives and being a mentor for them, and then also ways that we can be looking to things that they've done, such as with certain types of apprenticeship programs or other kinds of programs to help develop the workforce in King County to prepare for the next generation of maritime employees. I'd like to see us learn from some of their experiences with that and be able to implement more of that in Pierce County as well.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you'll be the first responder on the next question, followed by Dick. The question is, the LNG plant is controversial because of its carbon footprint, as well as because of safety concerns if there were an accident. Could you speak to that issue?
Sure. So I would say that I have a commitment to not expanding continuing use of fossil fuels of any kind. I know that moving away from that is a part of the current plan towards those 2050 goals, but I also know that we've been aware of these issues of how much more difficult it is to access those resources, all the money that is being put into even getting at those fossil fuels, and then all of the carbon and emissions impacts, as well as other safety issues that come along with the storing and handling of those materials. So personally, I would not have supported it if I had been in a position to do so at the time, moving forward the LNG plant. I think at this point, obviously, it's in that process of appeals to see what's going to happen moving forward with that. And so what I would be committed to is really working to develop alternative options. So continuing to support things like shore power and other opportunities to move more towards an electric or more towards green industry, and really looking at opportunities to innovate. I know that in a lot of the businesses I've worked in, we would go from one period to 5 years later or 10 years later. There might be something we were doing in our processes that we hadn't even imagined 5 or 10 years before. And I really think we're going to be seeing that with innovation in the energy industry. And I would like the Port of Tacoma to be a part of that.
Thank you. Dick, your response, please.
Yeah, thank you. I visited the LNG facility on several occasions, and I think it's important for people to understand LNG is going to be used for the Totem Ocean Trailer Express company. They are 2 weekly calls to Tacoma, going to Alaska, and they will be using that instead of the bunker fuel that they presently use. One of the things that we look at is how we can transition into a cleaner fuel every time. LNG is cleaner than what is presently being used. The IMO, International Maritime Association, restricted shipping lines from coming into United States waters 200 miles to start burning cleaner fuel. And this is just another step in that direction. Totem Ocean Trailer Express does have shore power, and we're making sure that all of our international terminals have shore power where you can plug in and shut the engines down to stop those emissions from coming. Just recently, Station House number 5 just opened up in Northeast Tacoma, which is right across the street from the LNG facility. I think it's not only good for that area, but also good for Northeast residents, having another fire station down there. I am going to be continuing to move as new technologies, new innovations come on, providing cleaner fuel for the vessels that call on the Puget Sound, into the Puget Sound. So I believe this is just another transition from going from the dirty bunker fuel that they have to use to a cleaner fuel in the LNG. Thank you.
Dick, you'll be next. You'll be first on the next question. How could the port demonstrate its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, both within its organization and in the community?
Thank you. Well, one of the things that the port has to continue to do is be a leader with that regard. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee in the port, of which I am a member, along with most of the members are employees. It is critically important that the port reflects what the community is. And in doing so, we're going to be looking at avenues, calling on consultants, things of that nature, to see what things we are lacking. To say that we're perfect would be a misnomer, because the fact of the matter is there could always be things better. It is important that everybody, regardless of where you come from, has the ability and to move forward in jobs and in opportunities to move themselves and their families forward. I think we're doing that in the right step. We've got a long ways to go. This is an everyday action that will be taking place at the port, and we'll be moving forward in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, same question, please.
Sure. So whenever it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, the goal eventually is inclusion, right? So diversity sometimes can just be that tokenism, and we want to move past that. We want to move to where we actually have voices and leadership at the table that reflects the whole community, because really where the issues come from that we're trying to address with DEI actions in our community is from the fact that only certain people were at the table to begin with, and they designed systems that made sense for them and worked for them. And so for some members of our community, those work really well. And we want to keep the things that work and also go back to the rest of the members of our community and say, you know, if you had been at the table in the first place, how would you have designed this system? And we know that there are a lot of organizations in the community that are already working on these issues. And so I would want to partner with those who have subject matter expertise, those who have lived experience, to talk to them about what is important to them, what designs would make sense for them. We have an opportunity where the port has been working on this project and talking about this project for our new headquarters. That is something that definitely should be designed with this in mind, and making sure that we have that inclusive vision in the leadership of the table. And I also think that we could look at different kinds of assessments that we do with any kind of partnerships or any time that we're looking at bids to bake in those DEI principles into the business that we have. And a lot of it's also going to be partnerships with the other companies in the tide flats, with the unions, to make sure that folks who really haven't had opportunities to be taking advantage of the good living wage jobs, well-benefited jobs in the port, have access to those. And a lot of that is going to be starting back with things like apprenticeship programs, maritime high school programs, just getting out to the community and letting people know about those opportunities that maybe they didn't know about before.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you'll be first on this next question. And this is a little bit of a follow-up to some things that we've talked about before. The question is, what types of clean energy projects would you encourage for port operations and in the community? Please speak about potential uses of wind and or hydrogen power for vessels.
Thank you for that question. So I have been having a lot of conversations, and so those are definitely wind as well as hydrogen power have come up. I'm going to say at this point, and this is a little bit of my learning curve in this process, I haven't settled on what I would say is my direct plan. That's something that I'm continuing to listening to experts about, and would want to make sure that we're looking at all angles, because I know this was one of the issues with LNG, for instance, was that it's definitely cleaner than what was happening. And after it was approved, then all these other data started coming to light, right? That maybe the numbers didn't quite look the same way that we thought they were going to look, or concern around vapor clouds that has come about. So I want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. I do plan to do that quickly. I know November is coming right around the corner, and if I do get the support of the voters to move into this position next year, I want to be prepared at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick, the same question, please.
Yes, thank you. What we're trying to advocate for and moving forward is renewable energy, where we can use that at all aspects. We're trying to change our fleet as it gets older, that we are accounted for into renewable energy. Just recently, when you talk about wind and solar, in Norway, they have a vessel that does run on solar and partial wind. But the problem is that the vessel is also quite small. And for ocean-going vessels, until you can come up with an idea and a system that works that can power the ocean-going vessels, the size of them, and I'm talking about things that ships that will carry 22,000 TEUs, containers. We're going to keep looking at that as that progresses. And so is the shipping industry. The shipping industry is looking at what they can do to eliminate the fuel they use because of not only the emissions, but also the high cost, using our natural resources, be it solar, be it wind. Like I said, we're following what Norway has done, looking at that a little bit more to see in the shipping industry if that can be changed in the years to come. But we're going to continue changing our fleet into renewable energies, using what we can to make sure that the fuels that are presently being used can be phased out over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick, you'll be first for this next question. How would you increase cooperation among the port, City of Tacoma, and the Puyallup tribe? And what improvements do you think this could create?
Okay, well, thank you. As you probably know, we're going through a sub-area plan right now with the Puyallup tribe, City of Tacoma, Pierce County, and the City of Fife. This is a first step in trying to figure out what we need to do in Pierce County, in the Port of Tacoma area, and the industrial areas, to ensure that everyone is moving in the same direction. We have a subcommittee that deals with the Puyallup tribe. Setting up annual meetings is a thing that we need to do. We have, before the pandemic hit, we would meet with the City of Tacoma and City of Fife and other cities on an annual basis to look at what strategic plans they have moving forward. You know, all great cities also have a great port. And in order to do that, you have to have the cooperation and the leadership moving forward in the same direction. And though we'll have differences of opinion, which all entities like this do, the fact of the matter is what is best for the people that we represent. And that's the number one thing that we strive for. So I believe that as long as we can continue sitting down at the table and talking about the issues that we face and doing it in a manner that reflects how we want to move forward, I think we're going to be better off. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Thank you. So when it comes to the partnerships with other governments, such as the city of Tacoma, the city of Fife, and the Puyallup Tribe of Indians, there definitely has been groundwork laid with the current commission and or the past commission actions. And so wanting to continue to build on that, I do think it is important for the port. And I'd say this in general, because I think there's an opportunity for the port to just do more engagement in general with the community, for the port leadership to be looking at what are the needs in the community and how can we meet those. We know that one of those needs is this, being a portal, the entry point for a lot of commerce, right? And a lot of movement of goods and services that support in secondary ways, lots of other businesses and lots of other jobs in the community. So we understand that. But I think that there are also a lot of things that are happening in our community that are changing over time. And so it's important for us to be going out to those organizations, those bodies, and understanding what their needs are and trying to figure out how we fit into that bigger picture. Because although we are operating functionally as a business, as the port, we do need to serve all of Pierce County. And so I'd like to make sure that those communications are happening on a very regular basis, and also that we are seeing these other groups, these other government entities as equals in those conversations, and taking their perspective seriously, and looking for yes and solutions instead of kind of piecemealing, is this going to work or this going to work? So trying to really get at the underlying concerns, the underlying needs, even if our solutions that we bring to the table aren't always the same to start with, there's usually some kind of need underneath it that we can work to try to meet together.
Thank you, Elizabeth. You will answer the next question first, and the question for you is the statutory responsibility of Tacoma the statutory responsibility of ports is to enhance economic development. How can the Port of Tacoma contribute to economic development in Pierce County beyond its maritime shipping function?
Thank you. So ways that the Port of Tacoma can contribute to the economy here in Pierce County beyond the shipping function. As we talked about earlier, there is support of additional manufacturing or other kinds of businesses that there is space for. There are some undeveloped areas in and around the tide flats that we could support. And I think one of the things that I know I've heard from people, and again, growing up in this area, knowing what Tacoma was like down around the port, 20, 30, 40 years ago versus today, we have a lot more people out just enjoying the waterway there, right? We have more businesses. We have, it's just a lot cleaner, nicer place to be. And I think we could continue to build on that to make sure that we have support of Tacoma as a destination for other things other than just business. So tourism, we have a really great developing art scene that I love that. I'm actually a commissioner on the Tacoma Arts Commission right now. And so I've been loving seeing the development of the art scene and other things that really can help us compete with other cities in the area that usually attract that kind of business and that kind of interest from folks out of the area and attract those dollars. So I'd like to see how the port can continue to support those kinds of initiatives.
Thank you. Dick, your response, please.
Yes, thank you. We have down in the Tacoma area called the Early Business Center. It's an industrial site right now. We just recently signed a lease with Safe Boats. Safe Boats is builds boats for the government. We also have where the fishing fleet from Alaska, some of those come down there and do repairs. We just recently sold our last piece of property out at Frederickson's. Frederickson's is out there in the Puyallup area where we were able to buy some properties quite a few years ago and be able to lease it and sell it, basically sell it to different companies out there that move in manufacturing and also other areas. What we're looking at now is another Frederickson's, someplace outside that will help support what we do on the port, but also be able to provide other manufacturing jobs, things of that nature. UPS just recently moved down in the port area. We're leasing property to them where they have over 125 and will probably going up to 250 new employees. We continually look at what we can do with the properties that we're cleaning up right now that would support either manufacturing or things of that nature, unrelated somehow to the maritime part of the business. And we're always on the lookout for properties outside of the port area where, as I said before, Frederickson's, which was envisioned years and years ago, was a great success and is something that we're going to be looking for in the future.
Dick, the next question for you is, how do you balance port decisions taking into account revenue generation, job creation, and environmental protection?
Well, thank you. Those are three elements that need to go hand in hand. As we create jobs, it is critical that we receive a rate of return on the businesses that we lease to. And because we cannot be, though we're a port entity, we're not immune to having to subsidize businesses. So it's critical important that we receive revenue that we can reinvest back into our community. And at the same time, take a look at what businesses we're talking about that are environmentally friendly, that do have restrictions within the lease that they will be abiding by the clean air, clean water, clean air environment as we move forward. So we look at those three elements, making sure job creation, rate of return, and also environmental stewardship as any business that comes to the port that wants to lease from the port. And we're going to continue to do that. It has been a successful model so far.
Elizabeth?
Sure. And just so I make sure I get the 3 points, could you repeat the question?
Revenue generation, job creation, and environmental protection.
Excellent. Yes, thank you. So, yes, I mean, if you look at the strategic plan for the port right now, I do agree that all three of those things are priority number one. However, we also know that you can't really have a priority number one. So it's how do you link those different things together? Revenue generation is important in terms of maintaining a port where we are not, taxing taxpayers and voters at the highest rate possible, because we're not doing that right now. And I'd like to keep it that way, that we are able to run these port operations through the revenues collected through the actual operations. For me, though, anytime that I'm talking about business and I'm looking at business and we say we need business, to me, it only matters to the point that it's actually benefiting the humans that are affected by those businesses. So if businesses are not helping support the development of an even cleaner, healthier environment, if businesses are not providing jobs to our residents here that are supportive of them and their families, then to me, I'm not sure that I need that business. So that for me is always going to be looking at that yes and. I do think that is the direction the port is, the current commission has placed in that strategic plan. I just would like to see some teeth in that in the next few years. A lot of these are commitments that have been made, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I just would like to see more progress on the environmental aspects and making sure that we're looking at how we can invite in, recruit, and select businesses that are going to be doing the absolute best for our community and not just seeing dollar signs.
Elizabeth, please answer this question first. What is the potential of increased use of rail and operating swing and graveyard shifts instead of only daylight hour work to alleviate congestion in and around I-5?
Oh, yes, the transit question. So I definitely think we need to expand and invest in rail to not just relieve local congestion, but also if you look at other ports, say like in Canada, where they have made more of those investments in rail, that access and that ability is could make us a lot more competitive in terms of the business that we're doing through the Port of Tacoma. As far as swing and night shifts, you know, I have worked in a 24-hour manufacturing facility. I've worked in that environment. And so, yeah, it can make it a lot better on the roads. I think a lot of people are looking for flexible work. However, it also brings additional concerns around safety in terms of continuity between teams. So you need to have a lot more communication between teams if you're not going to have the same people ever working side by side. And then again, the safety concerns of just having people on, you know, a non-normally biorhythmic schedule. I do know in my experience, I had a lot of employees, a lot of coworkers I worked with who loved working those kinds of shifts. And so I think if there is an appetite for that in the community, then that's great. I just would be really cautious about making sure that we're setting those folks up for success if they are moving into those kinds of shifts, and that we have the coordination and communication in place to make sure that from shift to shift that we're being consistent in the work, and that especially when it comes to safety concerns, that those are being thought through and infrastructure is put in place to support the health and well-being of all of the employees.
Thank you. Dick, your answer?
Yeah, thank you. The Port of Tacoma was the first port in North America to have on-dock intermodal service. And what that is where we take the containers off of the ship, put them right onto the train as it's right on the dock area. We work in conjunction with the Class 1 railroads, the BNSF, the UPS, BNSF, excuse me, and making sure that they have the rail cars there to do it. Give me an example. Once a rail car is loaded onto the dock, it's the equivalent of taking 200 to 200 trucks off of the road. So that helps. With regard to the shift differentials, in my active career as a longshoreman, I have worked from 6 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning, and from 3 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning. We have a 24-hour shift that can be worked, and we continue to do that as employers call for those various shifts. Investing in the rail is critically important. We work with Tacoma Rail, which is the avenue that moves those rail cars off of the docks and sets them up with the Class 1 railroads. And a lot of that work is being done during the night shift, which helps eliminate, as you were mentioning, the fact of commuters and people going in and out trying to get from their job to their workplace. There is still, day shift work that they do that also. But the investment we make in the rail is critically important, and the BNSF and UPS UP has both been very cooperative in making investments also. So I think as we move forward, you're probably going to see more and more of the hoot owl shifts, meaning 3 to 8, and the night shifts, which will help eliminate some of that congestion.
Thank you. The last question is another question about environmental impact. The New York Times had an article this last week about the overflow of container ships, and this would be for all of the ports, not just the Port of Tacoma. Ships backing up into harbors in Whidbey Island, and with the environmental degradation and emotional stress for the people living there. What is the solution to problems of congestion?
Yeah, well, one of the things. Am I first? Okay, sorry. Yeah, one of the things, and I think a reason why this took place, the pandemic, as we all know, kind of put everything back quite a bit. And what ended up happening is now the surge of the buying power from either the Amazons and all of this has brought these vessels online. And with that has come congestion in our harbors. I'm proud to say that the Northwest Seaport Alliance is moving another terminal online. It'll be online in January, Terminal 5 in Seattle, which will help eliminate that. But we work with the vessel shipping operators, trying to ensure that if they could slow down a little bit, which some have done, so they don't make the congestion, we'll continue to help eliminate that problem. But it's going to take some time. And as you stated, it's not just in Puget Sound. It's throughout the United States. The pandemic has took its toll on a lot of people, some worse than others. The shipping industry is rebounding and coming forward, and with that is that surge. Also, at the same time, the rail cars that are needed to move the cargo has been in an upturn. So you're not getting the rail cars like you need to on the terminals. We've worked with both the BNSF and the UP railroads, as I said, to make sure we can get those rail cars online. So we're doing things right now, moving containers off of the terminals onto vacated properties so that shipping lines can come in and eliminate that congestion. But it's not going to go away overnight. We're working on it, and it's going to be tough to get us all out of this, but it's not nearly as bad here as it is in Southern California and Northern California. But thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you for this question. So about any kind of port backlogs and ships just waiting and waiting. Growing up around here, seeing a few ships, sitting out there at a time, I'm going to tell you, years ago was actually kind of fun for me because we used to actually like to give them names and just decide that, this was Charlotte or Ferdinand or whatever. When you have this level of backlog of ships, right, it stops being quite so entertaining for any of us. And we've definitely seen the effect, right, of the change because of COVID and because of a lot of the effects that happened in the larger economy, that a lot of those kind of chickens are coming home to roost, where we now do have this backlog. As was mentioned, we're not seeing the same levels that we have down in California or some of the other ports, but at the same time, it is definitely an issue and of concern to our residents. And we also know that these kinds of backlogs can cause increases in costs and other things in the market in general. So continuing to just move as quickly as possible, make sure that we have the employees and the equipment moving as efficiently and effectively and safely as possible. And again, going back to, in the long run, continuing to develop the rail infrastructure and to develop that so that we can get these cargo moved along is going to be a really, really important partnership so that we don't see these kinds of issues happening again in the future. So I think the biggest thing anytime we confront something that we can't just fix overnight is to learn all the lessons we can from the experience and just improve in the future. If this is something we've never encountered before, we didn't have a solution for it. So I think really learning these lessons from this year, and I would say that's true about everything that's impacted us during COVID. There are many lessons to learn, and I hope we can apply that learning well.
Thank you. Elizabeth, your 1 minute closing statement, and then Dick.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I just want to close by saying that guiding and supporting career development of employees and job seekers has been my passion and my profession for more than a decade. And some of the things I've learned from this work has been that taking care of workers is the best way to take care of an organization, because fundamentally people want to do good in the world. And the people I've worked with also actively seek opportunities to grow, develop, learn, and excel, but they haven't always liked change if it wasn't their idea. So as leaders, we need to get ahead of changes driven by changing global trends and climate. We need commitment to a vision of yes and when it comes to the environment and jobs, and we need to provide multiple pathways forward so that our residents can make choices for themselves and their own careers and businesses. I believe we are up to the challenge of building a more equitable, sustainable, and collaborative port. I would love for you to join me in that work.
Thank you. Dick, your closing statement, please.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Prior to running for the Port Commission, I attended Port Commission meetings for about 4 years. And when I first ran and got elected, I thought I had just, won the lottery. The fact of the matter is I've learned over time that there's a lot of hard work that is required and needed, but there's nothing more satisfying than to be able to see new jobs being created, cleaning up contaminated properties that were left to us, making sure that someone has the benefits and security to raise their family in Pierce County. You know, I'm excited when I was first elected. I'm still excited today. It's been a big part of my life. I will do my utmost best to make sure that what we leave for generations to come will be a lot better than what we have, what we inherited. You know, the Port of Tacoma, they say, is an economic engine. Well, we can't be an economic engine unless we get the support and the understanding of our communities. JBLM, Economic Development Board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dick. And thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Terry Baker, timekeeper. Thank you, TV Tacoma. Elizabeth Pugh and Dick Marzano are candidates for Port Position 2. And thanks to the viewers.